I'm going to be talking this week about gut issues, GERD, acid reflux, liver, gallbladder, kidneys, and how it links into insulin resistance. And this is really important because it all does. And most of it is directly linked to insulin resistance, especially things like gallstones and non-alcoholic fatty liver. So if you guys are suffering with stuff, I mean, this isn't just about me talking at everybody. This is about trying to help people understand what could be happening with their health. So many of us are suffering. So if you're like I was, maybe you're having stomach pains that you can't explain. Maybe you're having inflammation throughout your body, or you're having brain fog and fatigue and body aches and pains. Would you be surprised to know that all of that can link back to your gut? And even the fact that you get sick so often links into your gut health. And so, if there's one thing that's linked to almost all of our gut health that could help us feel better in this moment, I don't, Steffi, are you in here? Because I see your face. Um, Oh, she just went live too. So, and hey, Jason, wow, everybody's hopping on this morning. So, anyway, this thing called insulin resistance, which is caused by too much fuel in our system, right? So, we eat food, food is fuel. That fuel turns into something called glucose in our bloodstream through a long digestion process. But when we're giving our body too much fuel too often, what's happening is it's causing disarray. And I want to stop for a second too. I'll dive into this more later, but as we start to digest, we have enzymes that happen when we chew, masticate, and eat. All of those are there for a reason, and if we're bypassing those by doing smoothies and fruit juices and stuff that just go right past all of that, it causes a problem on down the line. Every step in that process is necessary for us to have health. And when we're going on about just ingesting things, liquids and whatnot all the time, we're having problems in the intestinal tract, in our kidneys, in our liver, and I'll dive deeper into that this week because I have to do some catching up on everything that I read and study. You guys, good morning, Dale. But just know that it's causing a problem. So then when we get down to the gut, if you understand that 70% of your immune cells are housed in your gut, and it's getting to be that season, right? It's getting to be the season when most of us are going to start to experience flus and colds and all of those wonderful things that come along with this temperature change, this weather change. So what if you didn't have to go through all of that? What if your immune system was strong enough that you weren't having to worry about being sick all winter long, or being sick because you have young ones at home that are bringing things home to you, or you're worried about being out and around people, or all the new strains of the whatever that's coming around? If your immune system was stronger, you wouldn't have to worry about those things so much. And I know that I'm surprised because I don't dive into the world of the news very often, but I've had so many people talk to me this last week about their fears of what's, this winter and what's happening. But so back to the gut, if your immune cells, if 70% of the immune cells that allow you to fight all that off are housed in your gut, and your gut's unhealthy, then you're more likely to get sick. So insulin resistance destroys your gut health, and it allows negative bacteria to grow, things like yeasts and whatnot, to grow in your gut. They're craving sugar that they can get fed. That's increasing your sugar cravings, and it's causing this perpetual cycle in your gut of dis-ease and inflammation and all of that happening. So is it 2 years ago now? I was in a house with my daughter, and four of them, three kids and me, and all four of them came down with COVID, and I was the only one who didn't. And in a house with four people that had it, how did I not get it. I truly believe it's because I had been on the system for a year, a little over a year, and or the protocol that I talk about, and it had allowed my gut health to get strong enough, my immune cells to build up enough that I just wasn't affected by that particular virus or that strain that came through the household. And it's amazing to me how many times I withstand those things. So if you're interested in getting healthier this winter, know that you need to get your gut health healthier too, and that all of that can start with addressing insulin resistance. Okay, so does everybody understand what insulin resistance is and why it's important? Because I know I talk about it every day and then I forget that not everybody knows. And then I get questions about it, like, what is insulin resistance? I'm a little bit confused. So I'm going to back up again and say that when we eat food, it gets turned into a form of sugar in our bloodstream called glucose. That's considered to be fuel by our body. So I'm going to try and break it down just to be as simple as possible for everyone. So when we're continually putting fuel in our body, there's something has to carry that fuel to all the cells of our body so that it can be utilized. And every cell in the body, usually they say, oh, it goes to the muscles, the liver, or your fat cells. But in truth, every cell of your body needs this glucose to function, right? Because it's what's helping our cells function. Somebody said they didn't understand the concept of energy in the body and the cells needing energy. So I talked about how if you think about a light bulb, mine's on, but if I were to disconnect the energy source from that light bulb, then the light bulb wouldn't light up and do its job. So every cell needs energy flowing to it so that it can do its job. And when we're disconnecting that, then we start having problems in the body. When we have so much glucose in our body, hey Jason, um, we have this hormone that gets produced called insulin. And insulin is two things: it's an energy transport system and it's a fat storage system. So insulin's job is to say, oh, wow, there's all this glucose in the bloodstream. I got to get rid of some of it because we should only have about a teaspoon of sugar in our entire bloodstream. But we're eating so much that we often have way more than that. So the body's continually putting out insulin, a hormone, to carry that glucose or energy to the cells of the body. But the cells eventually get tired because we're knocking on their doors too often because we're eating so much and having so much turn into glucose so often. And then those cells, that energy junction gets disrupted. So now the cells aren't getting the energy they need because of the resistance to the energy transporter. So that's kind of insulin resistance. I hope that's not too complicated, but it's too much insulin in the bloodstream over a long period of time that's causing us to be sick. And so when the cells start to shut down to the insulin, it starts storing it as fat. And then that's when we see fat grow. So it used to be said, or people used to think, that if you were heavy or obese or have excess fat, that's what caused the insulin resistance. But it's the other way around. It's that excess insulin in the system that's causing you to put fat on. You cannot put fat on without excess insulin in the system, without insulin in the system, period, because that's what's transporting the energy to the fat cells. So it's the opposite way around. And then some doctors will say, oh, it's not about the sugar. Well, there's a number of things that can turn into glucose in the system, not just sugar, right? But sugar turns into glucose the most rapidly. And it's the one thing that we're eating too much of. Most all of us are eating way too much sugar, whether it be in the form of cane sugar or breads and whatnot. Now, I had an interesting comment because as I've learned, I think that my knowledge or my viewpoint of things has changed drastically. So I was talking about fruit juices, and I'll be talking about fruit juices later this week again. You guys, they're a load on your liver. So if you're worried about your liver, your gallbladder, your kidneys, take a look at how much fruit juice you're drinking, because that's straight sugar into your bloodstream, which is causing way too much glucose or way too much insulin in your bloodstream. But when I mentioned fruit juice being part of the problem, some people were very offended that, like, how dare you uh, compare natural sugars to refined sugars? Well, how about we understand the fact that you took a fruit and you juiced it, you refined it. You refined that fruit into something that it wasn't meant to be because you stripped out all the fibers, you stripped out enzymes, you stripped out phytonutrients that it needs in order to deal with the sugars that it's leaving in your body. So, fruit juice is no better than a loaf of bread. It's gonna cause problems in your body. In fact, the loaf of bread will probably cause less problems in your body than the fruit juice will. So, it's interesting to me how people will delineate between types of sugars and what they're doing in your body. Um, yeah, I get that refined sugar is damaging us. I'm not oblivious to that, but I'm telling you that if you're not taking a pear, an apple, and eating it raw, you're refining it. So it's about the same thing in the end. So fruit juices cause a really they have fruits have fructose in them, and that causes more of a load on the liver. In the nuts and bolts of it, what happens is when you're eating fruits instead of other sugars, it's cueing an array of things in your body that allow fats to be stored in your liver and in your visceral fat more than in the subcutaneous fat. Visceral fat is the fat that's underneath your muscle wall in the stomach, and subcutaneous fat is the fat that's everywhere else around your body that's jiggly, that nobody wants to see. Visceral fat is often hidden and nobody knows that it's there. So even in the absence of subcutaneous fat, you can have a lot of visceral fat. So if you're drinking fruit juices and thinking you're just fine because that's the healthier choice, I want you to rethink that because you're probably doing your body a lot of damage. One of the stories I have, and so think about your life and your family for a second, and think if this fits in with you. Because a couple of years ago, when I went up to help my daughter with those three grandkids, and I got to the house, one of my grandchildren was eating like if mom was gone, they were able to go to the store and pick what they wanted for dinner. And the one would always pick like a fruit bowl and some kind of juice and think she was doing the healthy thing for her body. Because that's what we've all been told, right? And after I had been learning what I know, I was a little bit scared for her because I understood that in the absence of proteins and healthy fats, she was probably damaging her body. Well, less than 6 months later, I started recognizing, okay, she has the dark skin patches. She has some of the other symptoms of diabetes or insulin resistance. So I talked to mom. We went and got her tested, and sure enough, at 10 years old, she had prediabetes. She wasn't eating refined sugars a lot. She wasn't eating all of that, but she was eating primarily fruits and drinking fruit juices, a lot of fruit juice. And so she was having problems with insulin resistance already because it had turned into prediabetes. So it goes high amounts of insulin, insulin resistance, prediabetes, and diabetes. It's like this timeline. So diabetes means you've been insulin resistant for a while. Prediabetes, you're getting there. And before that, you could have insulin resistance, and most doctors or physicians are not catching it at the insulin resistance stage because of the way they've been taught to look for things. They don't see it until it's like prediabetes. But even children now are starting to have problems with this. We have children as young as 6 years old with non-alcoholic fatty liver disease. We're having children that young having prediabetes and diabetes type 2. And how did that happen? It happened because our food has changed so much that it's making us sick. So can we all agree that our food is not what it used to be? And I would love if we could all also agree that this means that look, we have some responsibility, right? We have some responsibility. I'm not taking all responsibility away from us, but I'm not putting all responsibility on every person out there who's feeling ill, because if we've been put in an environment that our nutrition, our fuel that's being given to us is imperfect, then maybe we should be taking a look at the fuel or the way that the fuel is getting utilized in our system before we start pointing fingers at everyone and making everyone feel bad because their health is failing. Because it's not just one or two people. So it's not like we have 93% of people who are doing well and only 7% of people who aren't. The numbers are actually reverse of that. According to science, there was a new study that came out in the last year that said that only 93% of 93% of us are metabolically unhealthy. That means that less than 7% of us are metabolically healthy. Well, we were talking about insulin. Insulin is one of your metabolic hormones. So if 93% of us are having some metabolic disorder, some metabolic disease, some problem, whether it's weight or losing your eyesight or bleeding teeth and gums or fibromyalgia or Crohn's or IBS or um, Alzheimer's, Parkinson's, those things all link in, and it's amazing that they do. But those are all clues that something's happened. And throughout history, we have not changed this much in one generation as we have now. So that's leading scientists to say, hey, what's happening? Why is so much changing so quickly? And it's not normal for us to have this huge genetic change. So, what's going on? And they're starting to realize that our food system is causing this disorder and disease. So, whew, where does all that lead us to? Well, what a couple of things I want to talk about is when we go into the doctor, and I'm not saying that I don't want anyone to go to the doctor. I do. I want you to work with your doctor, but work with a doctor who understands and is going to listen to you and understand you. Because I kept going in and having things happen, and no doctor was listening. Or no doctor seemed to be able to find out what was going on when my body was falling apart. And so I had to do a lot of self study and start trying to figure things out on my own. But if they're trying to give you medications for a dietary borne disease or disorder or chronic illness, that's really not going to address the root cause or get you better long term. It's going to address the symptoms of the lab numbers that they need to see look better in the moment, but it's not going to fix what's happening underneath. And again, I'm not saying don't talk to your doctor, don't work with your doctor, don't do what but I'm saying be more aware of yourself. So, what's really happening if our food is imperfect because we're doing things like taking fruit and making fruit juice out of it, refining a natural sugar. Same thing, cane sugar comes from the sugar cane plant. So by those rights, if somebody's saying fruit juice is a natural sugar, then the sugar we buy on the store shelf is a natural sugar, right? Um, so know that we're stripping things out of our food, and it's not just in those refined moments. So as history has gone on, people have wanted more ginormous, big, plump, juicy fruits and vegetables, right? So the food industry has been working hard to figure out how to make foods look bigger, taste sweeter, all of that. So you will want it and eat it and buy it and eat more of it actually. So when they strip out all of these nutrients from the food, you're hungry more often. So you're eating more of it. And a number of scientists have been talking about this. Then the fact that our food is no longer recognizable in our body. And how many of you guys, does anybody resonate with this? Do you guys feel like, yeah, you eat more and more, but you're not full as often as you should be? I mean, I remember as a kid, we would eat a meal and be full until the next meal 6 hours ago, 6 hours later. And now we're being told to eat every 2 hours. Even some of these fitness gurus on this platform and many others are telling you to eat every 2 hours to keep your metabolism um, jacked up and burning high. But what actually happens is you're training your insulin. We're going to go back to insulin to be high. And once you train it to stay high long periods like that, it just hangs out up there at this high level, causing inflammation and pain and loss of eyesight and bleeding teeth and loss of hair and hormonal disruptions and gut disruptions. And then it takes longer for your body to retrain to get that insulin back down to a normal level. So eating every 2 hours is like telling an alcoholic to have a drink every 2 hours because that's going to make them feel better. Well, it may make them feel better in the short term, but is it really going to fix anything long term? No. And scientists are now figuring out that that was wrong. So also calorie counting, calories in, calories out. How many of you guys are sick of hearing exercise, exercise more, eat less? Because we all kind of know there's some truth to that, but is it the only thing? What if you understood that your hormones have everything to do with it? Some people can eat far less, exercise far more, and still have a weight problem. And it has to do with their hormones. And one of the primary hormones is insulin, and it affects all of your other hormones, your testosterone, your estrogen, your progesterone, all of that, that affects how you gain and lose or maintain weight. It also affects leptin and ghrelin and cortisol. So if we look at the one key switch, which is insulin, maybe we can understand how to get control of the rest of our health and the disease that we're feeling, dis-ease. So how do we do that? Well, we need to put back in fibers. Fibers are extremely important. Some people will say they're not. Some people will say they are. Some people will say things about the carnivore diet and they only eat meat. And um, it's tough, you guys. You can go out there and you can find good and bad for anything that you look up, right? I'm listening to the doctors that I listen to because I suffered for so long, and this was the only thing that that worked. And yeah, those medications, those GLP-1 activators or agonists, they are not the thing that I would recommend. And metabolic scientists like Dr. Ben Bickman, who deal with nothing but metabolism, would tell you to stay away from those. Uh, so so I would never ever 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 recommend those medications because they're forcing your body to produce more of what it's already overproducing and cramming more storage into your cells that your cells are not wanting. So it's like torturing your cells. So what I did was I started understanding, I found this protocol right here on social media, like all of you guys are seeing it now, because that's the only way that it's sold now. Um, I put back in proteins, and actually I'm going to talk about that too. I'm fasting this week because I do fasting as a part of my 2 years in as part of what I do. All right, so I have a tea in the morning, which is what I'm drinking right now. You keep seeing me take drinks. It's a tea that helps me burn fat for fuel. Um, gives me mental clarity and energy. I was trying to think about different things all at once and it all kind of came crashing in. So, but it helps give me energy without crashes and without the negative effects of the caffeine that you find in coffee and things like Red Bull. There's things in this called adaptogens that are naturally occurring in the plant that help mediate how the caffeine acts in your body, but it's allowing you to burn fat for fuel. So I'm in a fasted state now. Fasted meaning the sugars that I ate yesterday at dinner are out of my system. Insulin is down, glucagon is up. And so I'm now in a state where I'm not running on insulin. So now I'm having my tea, and that's helping me with that state. It helps you with the production of ketones, which are telling your body to burn fat. They're little messengers that tell your body to burn fat. Then on a normal day, um, on my everyday, when I eat my first meal or my break fast around between 10 and noon, I'll have a pre-meal drink that has 7 different fibers in it, phytonutrients. So it has things in it that are helping with mediating the sugars, mediating the fats, helping you fill up, helping coat your gut, helping you feel full before you eat, helping you hold on to the food that you eat instead of it just passing right through your system so that you stay fuller longer, so that those insulin levels can normalize. And then we don't eat for 4 to 6 hours, no snacking, and I have another pre-meal drink before my next meal. That's all I've done. So, so that's all I've had to do to help me get my diabetes reversed when no physician was able to help me reverse my diabetes without medications. So I'm not on any medications now. 10 different medications I came off of, and my diabetes is reversed, my hypertension is reversed, my I have a knee that was supposed to get replaced a year ago, and it doesn't have to be replaced because the inflammation in my body is down. So that's what I did, was a tea in the morning, and a pre-meal drink before each of my biggest meals of the day. So this week, so normally I do some intermittent fasting, about 16 hours of fasting with about an 8-hour eating window, but most often for me, it's about a 6-hour eating window because I have my first meal and then I have my second meal 6 hours later. My first meal normally is something like no nitrate sausages and a couple of eggs and maybe a pear because I've really learned to love pears as I've learned more about this whole nutrition thing and how high they are in fibers, how low they are in sugars, and the fact that they have this component in them called chlorogenic acids that really help you feel good and give you energy and help with your metabolism as well. So I love pears. Berries used to be the big thing. I still love berries. They're amazing, but I'm learning to really embrace pears above all else. So things like there's good components in most all of our fruits, right? But things that are on the high end of the glycemic index, which means they're going to turn into sugars too quickly, are things like pineapples, bananas, and watermelon. And I used to love all of those, but I just have to be careful with them now, understanding how quickly they turn into sugar in your body. So then when you're juicing them or you're putting them in a smoothie, then it's breaking down those fibers and allowing the sugars to go into your system even quicker than they were before. So I have a comment that says, "You're not a doctor. You shouldn't be out here telling people stuff when I'm not a professional." No, I worked for doctors for years, and I was allowed by doctors to talk about a number of these things because I did do studies. And I sat down and talked to the doctors and said, "Hey, we have this patient that has this or that, and can I go talk to them about supplementing with this or doing that?" And the doctors would say yes. So. Um, you know what? And here's the thing. I am talking to people about getting their health back by addressing their nutrition and what's missing in our diet, which is readily available out there. And I don't think that it's a very healthy view of people to think that we have to give all of our power away so that other people can tell us what to do. I'm giving you information. You choose to do with the information what you choose to do with it. But if you're not getting the information, then you don't know. And if you're just saying, I'm sick, I'm going to go to the doctor and put my hands in his and not have any self um, accountability, I don't think that's very healthy either. So keto or vegetables. I used to do keto, but you know what? I did keto before I found the system, and keto helped, but it didn't reverse my diabetes. It didn't help me get better from a number of I was still losing joint tissue, I was still having inflammation, I was still losing my eyesight. Do I believe that keto is healthy and good for you? I think it is. And in fact, to be honest, what I'm doing now is I've had a number of other health issues that were resultant from long-term insulin resistance. So I lost my gallbladder um, about it'll be about 2 years ago now. And for the first year, I did okay. And then all of a sudden, just over a year in, I started having all kinds of problems, pain in my stomach, inflammation again, although all my numbers for all my other indicators for insulin resistance were normal. And then I started doing some more self research and realized, hey, when you let them take your gallbladder out, these are all the things that can happen when you get your gallbladder removed. It can mess with your thyroid hormones. It can mess with your sex hormones. It can mess with just your liver doesn't have a storage tank anymore for the bile that's being made. So your liver's producing too much bile all the time or bile all the time, and it has no place to put it. So it's circulating through your system. But then when you eat, there's not enough at that moment in time. So it's causing pain and disorder. So I've been working on cleaning up my liver, understanding that by the time you lose your gallbladder, your liver has already been at risk for a while. When your liver starts to get gunked up and inflamed, it's causing problems with the gallbladder. The gallbladder doesn't just get sick without the liver being sick. So I just embarked on I'm this is my personality, you guys. I get wild hairs. I've been threatening to do a longer fast for a while now. I do them every once in a while. I still have paint in my hair from painting. Um, but it takes, I'm not gonna lie, it takes some mental fortitude to do an extended fast, right? So I just haven't had that mental fortitude. Lots of stuff happening in my life. But yesterday I was like, you know what, I'm done. I don't like the way my body's feeling right now. I know that I need to do this. And so it a long-term fast, by the way, every day this week, I will put out a video as I go through the fast about what's happening in my body according to science during the fast. So I'm doing a 5-day fast. That means I won't be eating this week. I will just be fasting. And there's a lot of people who are like, oh my gosh, that's so damaging to you. Well, if you're already thin, and a longer term fast may not be healthy for you, right? So yeah, you should check with your physician if you're considering a long term fast and seeing if it's what healthy for you. But even at the NIH, if you look it up, the NIH says that there are a lot of benefits to a longer term fast. About a 5-day to 7-day fast has a lot of benefits in removing inflammation. When you get into the state of autophagy that you get into in a longer term fast, after about hour 20, your body starts to utilize cells that are dead and dying anyway, cells that could be at risk of becoming things like cancers and whatnot. And it starts to utilize those for fuel. It's not eating up your muscle. When we're having problems with utilizing muscle for fuel is when we're running on insulin all the time and our muscles aren't building and insulin is preventing us from burning fat. When insulin resistant people are more likely to lose muscle when they diet than they are to lose fat. So one of the fastest ways to lose fat and maintain muscle is to get control of your insulin levels. And that just means that we have to stop eating constantly and allow the insulin to come down so that we have two metabolic hormones that I'm going to talk about. There's more, but insulin and glucagon. And so when insulin is out, it doesn't let glucagon play. Glucagon is what comes out when you're in this autophagy state of being fasted. So if insulin's out in the short term, it doesn't let glucagon play. We have to get insulin down and let glucagon take a turn on the playground, and then we become metabolically flexible, and that gets us healthier. So I'm doing a longer term fast. I have some excess fat cells on my body. I'm 59 years old and I've been insulin resistant for probably 30 years or more. We now start to realize so a longer term fast, even though I'm in menopause, even though I'm a woman, even though all of that, a longer term fast is healthy for me. I think that a woman who's in childbearing age and is lean, there's a reason why bodybuilders don't procreate. I talked about reproduction last week, and one of the things that happens is when your body's too lean, it says, "Oh, this is not a good environment to produce a child in." And so all of those hormones start to quiet down, and you're not able to conceive, or more or less likely able to conceive during those times of being very, very lean. So if you're younger and you're lean and you're not and you're wanting to start a family, not a good time for fasting, not a good time for extended fasting. Some intermittent fasting, where you're going 12 hours to 16 hours without eating, that's probably not that bad for you at that stage. But I'm older, I have inflammation, I have a number of cells that probably could use going, and I have some fat cells that still need to be disintegrated. So I'm going to do a longer term fast. And then at the end of it, at the end of this 5-day fast that I'm doing, my daughter, who has a Spanish speaking channel, she's doing it with me, which is amazing that we get to do this together. We're both going to dive back into keto at the end of this. And we just feel like for our body type, then this type of fast is good for us. So summer, it doesn't mean that you can't do it, okay? It doesn't mean that you can't become insulin sensitive. So it's interesting to note that in some people, being underweight or being lean is part of being insulin resistant, but can it still cause problems throughout the rest of your body? Yes. So if you will, I'm going to show you what you can do, and it doesn't, if you're lean, you don't need to go the 16 hours. I would just do the 12 hours, and we'll talk about that. But one of the important parts for you then would be that when you do eat, you need to allow the food to enter your bloodstream slower, slow it down. So it's not like, a gas pipeline heading into your system, but more like a hose heading into your system. So how you do that is through fibers, and it takes a variety of fibers to slow that down. So the system that I'm using, people who are underweight have been able to do it. People who are overweight have been able to do it. We're really addressing the insulin resistance. I'm talking about weight because that affects most of us. So Summer, if you're insulin resistant, I'm going to invite you. The system, the protocol that I talk about has a 90-day money back guarantee. And so if you try it and it's not working, your numbers aren't getting normal, and or you're just not feeling better in 90 days, you get your money back. But it's real food, so it's not medication, so it's not causing damage to your system. But for you, what you might want to do is just take a look at um, not snacking, eating more proteins and more fats, reducing the amount of sugars. I don't know how much sugars you're eating, but in some people, those sugars can trigger you into more fat burning. And so you're that leaner, but it still is causing the insulin resistance. So what you can do is the tea is actually not just for energy. I love it for energy for me, but it also helps with brain function. It helps with the mental clarity and whatnot. It also helps with regulating your blood pressure and your metabolism. And then I would start with the two pre-meal drinks a day and use those, especially if you're going to have anything that's higher in carbohydrate, to help slow those carbohydrates down. But I mean, if I was you, what I would do is have 3 meals a day. I would focus on proteins and fats. You guys, we've been told that fats, back when Ansel Keys, 60 something, 60, 70 years ago, started saying that fats were bad for us. We all started doing this low fat diet, right? And then if you look back in time, hey, Matt, when did we start having more of these metabolic disorders? When we started cutting fat out of our diet, when we started adding industrialized sugar and excess carbohydrates and refined fats into our diet, then we started having metabolic problems. So if you're insulin resistant and lean or underweight, I would encourage you, and you're bringing to mind somebody that I worked with years ago. We were on different ends of the metabolic scale. She was tall, super skinny. Nothing she did could help her gain weight. Nothing I did could help me lose weight. And so it was interesting that her doctor actually had her do what I'm telling you. He had her eat more proteins and more fats and cut the sugars. Because we tend to think sugars make us fat, but for some people, sugars are making you underweight, and that's dangerous too. So fats like avocado oil, healthy, cheeses, not the cheeses made from those refined oils. Thanks, Matt. But uh, I like coconut oil as well. The natural fats on your meats are actually healthy for you. Stop taking the yolks out of the eggs. Eat the whole egg. Um, that's why I have like 2 eggs and a couple of sausages for breakfast and a pear generally. Sometimes I'll add a couple of wheels of cheese in for some fats, or some avocado in for some fats. Fats actually help you burn fat. They're not what's causing the cholesterol problems and the fat on your body. You actually need fat to help you with your cognition and with your metabolism, but it's the trans fats and the really refined fats that are causing problems. I don't know why my whole thing is there. We go. So when I want to talk about those refined fats that I'm talking about, so yeah, so Summer, if you can, if you're open to taking, um, I don't want to give advice, but I'm going to tell you the one thing that I see right now is, if you're just doing blackberries and blueberries and strawberries, but the thing that hit me is the smoothies. So when we think about when you blend food up into a smoothie to make it easier to digest, you've made it easier to digest. So if you have insulin resistance, which means that the sugar is hitting your system too quickly, and you're pre-digesting those foods, that's part of the problem. So I know you love smoothies because when I started this whole thing, I had a smoothie a day. I loved them. I felt like they were doing the healthy thing for me. But now I understand that you're pre-masticating your food and you're breaking down those fibers that you need your stomach to break down. And it's the only way you can eat fruit. But it's so then I'm gonna encourage you that something like this, which has 7 different fibers in it, is something that you could add to your day. If you can't give up your smoothies, you have to understand that you've pre-digested your fruit or your fiber, and it's causing part of the problem. Yep, smoothies equal sugar. So that's part of the insulin resistance problem. I would probably have, if I was having a smoothie now, I would have 2 of these before the smoothie. Um, just to help with holding on to that sugar so that it doesn't hit your bloodstream so quickly. Um, so that's, I mean, and I would love to talk to you if you want to, that my information, you guys look, if you want to know more information, uh, we're going to go to my TikTok page right quick. So if you can put up with my craziness this morning, um, you're going to go right here to my TikTok page, tap on the picture of me up above, tap on my picture again when it comes up, and then right below the red lights, you'll see this link. And then when you click on that link, it's going to get you to my page. Summer, if you want to continue the conversation, I'm more than happy to do that and see how I can help, if at all. But right here is my contact me on WhatsApp. Just click on that, download WhatsApp, and connect with me, and we can start a conversation. If you're interested in the system that I've been talking about, you guys, you just get it right there on the top link. It should say my name on the top. That's how you're going to get connected to me to help coach you. You click on the buy now button, and then it's going to take you here where you get 30 of the tea, 60 of the balance. You get to choose your flavors, and then you'll go through that whole process there. So that's where you get all of that. If you're on Facebook, it's whoops, that's the wrong Facebook page. That's my Facebook page, but not my Facebook page. So let's go to this one. If you're on YouTube, it's going to be there. Right by my picture is the link. And if you're on Facebook, we got to get to the right page. There it is. It's right by my name. Right under here is the link there as well. So however you want to get a hold of me, there's multiple ways. And I appreciate all of you guys for asking questions and hopping in and being open to hearing information, even though I'm not a doctor. I'm sure she's not here anymore. But you guys, it's interesting to me that, people will make judgments about you and what you do know or don't know. And look, I'm 59. I was going to go back to school to become a doctor, fell, tore my thumb off, had to take some time off, and then thought about it and thought, I'm at this age. Do I really want to go do all those rotations and do all of that stuff? No. But it doesn't mean that I'm not intelligent enough to understand. What's the longest fast yeah, yeah. And unfortunately, I had a doctor. I'm going to answer the fast question. I had a doctor that I worked with, amazing doctor. She did really good things for people, and it was in a hormone clinic, and she allowed me to talk to patients about a lot of this stuff. But I didn't have the system at the time. We did saliva tests, 24-hour urine tests, blood tests. We did everything, and we did a metabolic test as part of the urine test, and it came back. And this physician who was specialized in all of this told me there was nothing she could ever do for me. And yeah, that's pretty devastating. So if I can help people understand how to take their health back and take control of their life a little bit better and get better, then great. And I'm not doing any damage. I'm telling them to utilize real food products and understand that the food industry has us a little bit jacked up. And I think most of us know that. So the longest fast I've done, baby girl, I did 10 days. I'm not at the point in life where I really want to do more than 10 days. And 10 days is had did a lot of good for my body, but it's really hard. And so I know my mind, I'm doing the 5-day one because at about 5 days, you're experiencing, yeah, you'll continue to experience benefits, but you're experiencing some of the best benefits at about 5 days. Again, I'll be doing videos all week this week for every day. Um, but the 10-day one, so how I do my fast, do you guys want to know that too? Because it's not just a water fast. I want to be on in autophagy. I want to have my ketones high. I want to be in this state, not just for burning fat, but for burning off and getting rid of some of the inflammatory cells that are in my system, getting rid of some of those dead and dying cells that don't turn over as quickly at my age, so that I am at less risk for things like cancers and whatnot, and that it helps clear my liver out. So like this morning, I'm having my tea. On a normal fast, you can have tea. I would be careful with coffee, um, and bone broth. I'll have maybe some bone broth later today, but tea, bone broth, and water is all I'll drink for the next 5 days. And the tea, though, because this particular tea um, helps shut down your hunger. It's a natural component of the tea. It helps with the fast. So I've done fasts before where I did the tea and the balance because I like to be like science curious a lot. And I did well on that fast, but I really want to get closer to a real fast and keep this out. So why I added the balance on the last fast I did of about 10 days was because the balance does not spike my insulin. That's key for me when I'm fasting, is that my insulin is not up. It does have my stomach work a little bit because it's putting some fibers in there, which can probably dampen autophagy a little, but it's helping the ketones be up. And I feel like that the prebiotics in it that are helping with the natural production of probiotics. You need prebiotics to build your own probiotics to build the healthy gut system. I felt like that was healthy for me at that time. I'm going to try it without the balance this time, and then maybe next month I'll do the 5-day fast with the balance. But that's it. I won't eat anything, just the tea, maybe some bone broth and water. And then at the end of 5 days, some of the inflammation that I felt from the gastritis, from not having a gallbladder, from having liver problems, should be relieved quite drastically. Some of the puffiness that's showing up in my face should go back down. And I will most likely feel much better. So again, at the end of this fast, using the tea from the system, using the tea every day because that's what's in here now. So I'll sip on this all day. Um, I will be working at doing more of a keto lifestyle for the next several months to see how my body does with that. Now, I'm gonna reach for a couple of books here. Um, I can't reach them. So one of the books that's interesting that I'm going to look at. I eat pretty simply. I don't do a lot of crazy cooking because it's just me. So it takes a long time for me to go through food, and I hate wasting. So normally I eat pretty simply. Like I have some sliced organic steak in there that I'll grill up and either have with eggs or on its own with a salad. I would try to incorporate a pear a day. But when I come off of this fast, I'll probably be looking at Dr. Fung's book. His food is more keto style, and so I will be diving into this book to start figuring out some meals if I want some variance in what I eat. And then I've also gotten some books on eating with no gallbladder. Can I talk about having no gallbladder and how it looks and what I'm finding for me that's working? That's I'm shocked sometimes that they talk about no fat on a no gallbladder diet. Yes, you want to limit your fat. I find with no gallbladder that I don't have problems with gastritis or pain if I stick to the fats that I have talked about: coconut oil, avocado oil, Butter, ghee. Yes, I cook with butter all the time. Olive oil, avocado oil. Um, so with no gallbladder, I still have all of those oils. I just don't have things like um, canola oil, grapeseed oil, any of those. So one thing, I haven't said this for a long time and I'm surprised, but what I invite you guys to do is think of, if you can take the food that you're thinking about getting the oil out of and squeeze it, and you can get an oil out of it by squeezing it, that's probably a good healthy oil to have. I know that when you squeeze avocado, you're going to see that oily coming out of it. When you look at coconut, you're going to get oil out of that really easily. When you when you're looking at butter and milk fats, you're going to have oil coming out of that really easy. Um, Also, I think that we have, in my estimation, I feel like a lot of our allergic problems come from insulin resistance, and there's probably less people with dairy and wheat intolerance if they didn't have the sugar intolerance. So maybe understand that sometimes things like almond oil and oat milk and all of almond milk, oat milk are really not as healthy for you. Okay. You have gallstones. So you do want to be careful with fats. Now understand that gallstones are like an end factor of, and I'm going to be talking about that more in depth in a video this week, and probably more in depth at about 3 o'clock. But when you have insulin resistance through this factor of causing um, dis-ease in your liver, and the way that it processes through and the bile becomes thick and sludge-like and sits in your gallbladder. Now it's kind of like, instead of a liquid, it's more like a paste in your gallbladder. And the longer it sits there, it kind of crystallizes and makes these stones. So I know, and I haven't dove into the ways that you can dissolve gallstones. 2 years ago, I ended up in the hospital 2 hours from death because I had several gallstones dislodged, completely blocked the bile duct, and I was septic. So they said if I'd waited 2 more hours, I wouldn't be here today. And so that's why I allowed them to remove my gallbladder, because I was kind of in a panicked moment, and that's just recognition for me now that, maybe I should have given it a little more time, because on this side with no gallbladder, it looks very different. So I know that eating too much sugar when you have no gallbladder is never good. You're going to notice that your foods go right through you. You have more pain. You're going to end up with more gastritis. Really heavy chocolate can cause pain with it. Really acidic foods and spicy foods you have to be careful with. You cannot eat as much as you used to at one sitting. So you have to slow down and eat smaller amounts. Um, so that just means, yeah, don't be eating every 2 hours, but understand that you're not going to try and digest through as much food as you used to with no gallbladder. Um, so for me, proteins like chicken, fish, I don't eat a lot of red meat, but some red meat I think is fine. And then lots of dark green vegetables, and like the pears and berries I think are great. I've not had any problems with those, but I would never, ever, ever again in my life put any kind of seed oil or oil other than the ones that I've mentioned in my house, because when I do, those are the nights, like, what did we have this weekend? I I can't remember, but I ended up, part of the reason I didn't go live on Friday was I got a hold of something that was cooked in seed oils, and I was extremely ill. And so I didn't go live Friday morning because I just was in no condition. So yeah, be careful of the oils you eat. You can have some fat, just don't have everything super fatty. I think that having some fats is important. If you can get it from things like coconut oil, again, mine comes from butter. Um, and avocados. I love avocados. So I will be, by the way, avocados are a great thing to break a fast with. So Saturday, when I do start to reintroduce food, avocados will be a big part of that. That's fats, right? But I'm going to tell you, it won't make my gallbladder. It won't make my liver hurt in absence of gallbladder. So a couple of the other things that I do with no gallbladder now are I take bile salts when I eat and I take digestive enzymes. They're kind of like the prebiotics that I was talking about with this. I'm just boosting them more. Um, because I understand that my body just does not produce the same digestive enzymes now without a gallbladder. It just doesn't work the same. So I add bile salts, I add digestive enzymes when I eat, and then I do the pre-meal drink. So I know I had somebody that was confused. They were like, well, if, oh yeah, yeah, you get so sick. Butter and olive oil, that's all so I'm not gonna, I don't have avocado oil. I have, in liquid form, I have olive oil by the stove, but I most often cook with just real butter. Like I get Kerrygold butter. I make sure that that it doesn't have any other added oils in it, that it's just true straight milk butter, and then coconut oil, because coconut oil has some other components in it that I find are really healthy. Do I eat coconut oil all the time? No. Do I use it? Yes. Do I use it for a number of things? For my skin, for my nasal passages. By the way, this is a weird one, you guys, but if you take some olive oil when you're getting a sinus infection, I have had really bad allergies, and so I just coat my nasal passages with a little bit of olive oil. Same reason as it works when you're doing pulling in your mouth. It has some antibacterial properties that will help with that, and it's kept me from having to get antibiotics for nasal infections when I used to have them several times a year. So coconut oil is just one of those things that I love having around the house for a number of reasons. Now, MCT oils are very different though, right? And I didn't know this, guys. I didn't know it either. But MCT oils do come from coconut oil, but they're very specific chains. They're medium chain triglycerides that come out of coconut oil that are so healthy for you. So if you can get a hold of, and I have some recommendations for those on my recommendations page. I'm not an affiliate for any of those. It's just what I use to help you guys out and have some place to start. But MCT oils I will add to my drinks sometimes. I won't be doing it during the fast, um, but I think they're really healthy. So that's one other type of oil I add, especially in the wintertime when I'm having hot drinks. I like to add the MCT oil in there. So there's that. And the medium chain triglycerides, by the way, are extremely healthy for your metabolism, and I can go do a video on those later today as well. But yeah, those seed oils. So let's go back to the seed oils really quickly, especially with the gallbladder. What I want you to understand with seed oils are, and I keep saying Rockefeller, I'm like 99% sure that that's who it was, developed them. Look, these guys are smart. They're businessmen. So they're producing food and they're canning corn and they're canning, other vegetables, and they're selling those to the market and making great money with it. But they have all of this waste product left over. And they're like, well, we don't want to just throw this away. What are we going to do? So they came up with a way to make an oil out of the waste products. And that's primarily where vegetable oils come from, are the waste products that are left over after stripping off what they're going to freeze or can to sell to you. And in order to get oils out of what's left, they drench it in a solvent called hexane. Now, I've had people come at me and be like, well, they clean the hexane out of that, la, la, la. Oh, okay. You can believe that all you want. I'm going to tend to believe that there's some hexane left on those, part of why they're so damaging to us. But the other part is, when they developed those were developed as machine oils. They were developed, there's a reason they have such a high flash point. There's a reason that they can be cooked in restaurants at high heats over and over and over again and not break down or not catch fire, because they were developed as machine oils. And along the way, they said, hey, we're not selling enough of this as a machine oil, but it's made from food, so we can promote it as a food, as a cooking oil. And then we have these cooking oils that we get that, like Sorty said, get sick when you eat KFC, when you eat Popeyes, when you eat Chick-fil-A, when you eat any of the places, any burger joint that's cooking tater tots, french fries, onion rings in oils, anything like that. And even when you go out to eat, things that are fried are normally fried in those oils. And you may come home feeling like there's some more inflammation. You maybe have a headache. You're maybe going to the bathroom more often or more urgently, and it causes a lot of problems. So the seed oils, when we talk about them causing inflammation or insulin resistance, it's through the inflammation. So when they create this high amount of inflammation in your system, that inflammation cues insulin resistance. Insulin resistance, what I want you to understand is it's always this symbiotic thing with other components going on. So high cortisol can cause insulin resistance. Insulin resistance can cause high cortisol. Inflammation can cause insulin resistance. Insulin resistance can cause inflammation. So it's, for me, I like to take insulin resistance off of the table and then start addressing everything else. So for me, because of the liver, no gallbladder, all of that, I'm addressing the inflammation. So I do some crazy things. I do the system. It's the one thing that I make sure I do every day. But yeah, I do some red light therapy. Yes, I do some vibration plate therapy after the red light therapy. Yes, I try to get exercise. Yes, I use castor oil over my liver. Yes, I use digestive enzymes and I use bile salts to try and help my liver keep me functioning in a healthy rate until the end of my days, which is hopefully in about another 100 years. So I do a lot of those things now that I'm understanding the damage that insulin resistance did to my body. I'm keeping the insulin resistance at bay, and now I'm addressing the things that are left over. Because I love it. Jason was on my live the other morning, and somebody was asked, or he wasn't on my live, it was in a group chat that we had, and somebody asked about a specific condition. By the way, it was enlarged prostate, and insulin resistance can cause an enlarged prostate. So the protocol I talk about is not a panacea. It's going to help. Yeah. Um, so Sally, I missed a couple of your messages. So it's going to help with insulin resistance. And if we connect the dots, and that's what I like to do, is connect the dots. So I'm going to tell you that the protocol I use helps with insulin resistance. If you're consistent with it, is it possible for it to help all of these other things? I actually believe so because I've seen it in myself and many others. So Sally says she just got an antibiotic for her sinus. Um, I actually asked my physician at the hormone clinic if I could talk to people about coconut oil for some of these things, and she gave me the go ahead. And so give it a try if you have a chance, Sally. Now, look, I'm Native American from North Idaho. I just put the coconut oil on my finger and put it in my nose and then wash my hands. If you want to use a Q-tip, use a Q-tip. But get the coconut oil coated up in your nasals. It's going to drip back out, but you'll be surprised at how quickly your sinus infections or how you can keep them at bay. And the castor oiling, I use on my grandson who also has a liposomal disorder and already has an enlarged liver and a number of things going on. So he does it. So how do you know if you have insulin resistance? There's a number of things that can tell you. The first thing you can do is if you want to go to a doctor and say, okay, I need to know that I have clinically that I have insulin resistance, and have them run a fasting insulin test. More and more doctors are being amenable to running it, but not always. So sometimes you have to go to an endocrinologist for that. If you just don't have the funds to go have that couple $100 test and that couple $100 doctor visit, you can do this. If you have labs already, take your current labs, because two of the signs of insulin resistance are high triglycerides and low HDL. So triglycerides being 150 or higher, and it'll show up on your labs as high. Okay, it's going to have a marker by it that says it's high. And your HDL, I believe it's below 50 for men and below 40 for women. If it's that low, that's a problem. So, and those also should be marked as, a red flag on your labs. So you're going to take the number from your triglycerides and you're going to divide it by the number from your HDL. And I'm going to talk to you about LDL in a minute because we always consider that to be the bad one, right? But so we're only looking at triglycerides and HDL. Triglycerides divided by HDL. The number that you come out with, according to Dr. Bickman, should be 1.5 or less. even the NIH says it should be 2.0 or less. If it's above 2, you probably are having a problem. If it's above 3, you definitely have a problem you need to start to address. Now, if you don't have either one of those and you want to know, I'm going to give you some other indicators that could tell you that you have insulin resistance. Okay. So if you have that bulging belly, that belly that's sticking out, whether you're obese or thin, my computer keeps shutting down because I'm not touching it enough. Okay, sorry about that. Sure, Sally. So if you have that bulging belly, that means that you're storing, for the most part, means you're storing visceral fat or fat underneath the abdominal wall. Now, there are a couple of things like cancers and a few things that could be happening. So don't just ignore the belly that's bulging, especially if there's pain with it, please. But most often that bulging belly means you have insulin resistance. One of the other top clues that you have insulin resistance is that if you have a high blood pressure. So if your blood pressure is 130/80 or higher, understand that 95% of high blood pressure is linked to insulin resistance. And so if that's you, and outside of some like viral or genetic thing, if you have high blood pressure that seems to just kind of come along with age, you're likely insulin resistant. Okay, so I'm going to give you a number of other things. Any one of them can mean that you're insulin resistant, but if you have more than one, say you have 2 or 3 of them, then just understand that you are probably insulin resistant and should start to address it. Now, I'll go over those, but I also want to say addressing it can be as simple as the protocol that I show you, and a couple of other things that you can do that don't involve medications. So here we go. So we already talked about bulging belly. We talked about high triglycerides, low HDL. We talked about high blood pressure. Okay, yeah. So then, to me, then I would say you're probably insulin resistant. Let's start to take care of it. There are some things I want you to understand. Your integumentary system, or your skin, is your largest protective organ of your body, right? So it's like it's protecting your organs and everything on the inside from all this onslaught of environment. But it can only take so much. It's also your early warning system. So a couple of things that are going to happen when you have insulin resistance with your skin. You're probably going to end up with some skin tags. And people think that it's just old age, that you get skin tags on your neck, some people get them on their eyelids, under your arms, in your groin. Those are not old age, it's insulin resistance. Mine all went away within 2 months, 2 to 3 months of starting the protocol. And I still don't have any skin tags today. Now that I know these symptoms, I'm continually watching myself to make sure I'm keeping control of my health in absence of all this other stuff going on. Okay, so the other one with skin is if you have those darkened skin patches in the same areas, in your groin, under your arms, around your neck, on your elbows and knees, and it's a dark, in some instances it's velvety, but on your knees and your elbows it could be rough and scaly, like mine was catching on my clothes all the time, and I was washing and putting oils on them. That's insulin resistance. And again, mine is all gone. No more dark skin patches, no more rough skin, no more any of that, no more, except for some paint that I didn't get to. Okay, so that skin takes dark skin colorations. Also, cystic acne, persistent cystic acne can be a big sign of insulin resistance. And here we are doing things like Proactive and all these things to try and clean the skin with salicylic acid and with all this other stuff, when it may just be coming from the inside, and inflammation and disease from the inside related to insulin resistance. I've had a number of women, and some of them have had to do like cleanse alongside the system to get it kicked off, but who've gotten rid of their lifelong cystic acne by addressing their insulin resistance. So those are some signs. Then if you're having migraine headaches, fatigue, body aches, what some people would typically call fibromyalgia, those are signs, okay? Bleeding teeth that won't go away no matter how many cleanings you've done, that can be a sign. If your eyesight's starting to fail, that can be a sign. If you're a woman and you have facial hair growing, but your hair on your head is starting to fall off, you're putting weight on, and you are just having mood disorders, that can be a sign. For men, it could be erectile dysfunction, where they can't obtain and maintain an erection, where their sperm production and motility is down. where their testosterone levels are down. Those are signs of insulin resistance. Um, I know I'm missing some things, but those are all signs. So if you have any of those, and weight, you understand that you cannot put weight on if you don't have excess insulin in your system. So know that getting the insulin under control will help with the weight. Okay, so I hope that helps. So Abby, I'm going to go over this right now, just because it's already been about an hour. What I did, the protocol that I did, and look, I tried metformin. I was on 10 different medications a year ago. I was working with doctors. I had done the medical medium. I did smoothies. I did berberine. I did black seed oil. I did garlic, and I did ginger, and I did lemons, and I did wild blueberries, all the stuff. Okay. And I wasn't getting better like I needed to get better. And then I found the protocol that I'm using now, and it helped me get better in like 2 months. In fact, in the first month, I had regular cognition back. My blood pressure was going down. My inflammation was down. I could see my kneecaps for the first time in the first month. And it was just by addressing the fact that our food is what's causing this problem, and that our food has been stripped of nutrients and fibers that we need. So it's a tea that I have in the morning and a pre-meal drink that I have before each of my two biggest meals of the day, and that's it. I Because I have the personality I have, and because of my time in medical, I one day walked up to my, and I'm not recommending anyone else to do this, but I walked up to my counter because I had 10 medications on that counter. I had a Ninja with all of this berberine and black seed oil and all the stuff on the other counter, and wild blueberries that I had to go to the store every 3 days and get more of. Um, and I was like, what the hell is my life? And so I was like, I'm not taking any more of this. And I threw away all of my medications. Maybe not the choice everybody should make, but I did. Okay. And so now I'm not on any medications. I haven't refilled any medications in over 2 years. The last physical exam I did in January of this year, my A1C, my triglycerides, my fasting glucose were all in normal range. My blood pressure was 120/70, and I've been non-diabetic for 2 years, and all I do is watch what I eat and add these fibers and nutrients into my day, and not take any medication. So it depends on how long does it take to start working. It depends on you and what's going on with you. So it will start working for most people within a few days in a number of areas. Like for me, my brain fog and my fatigue was so bad. I had such bad adrenal fatigue that I would lay down for naps a couple of times during the day. I would say that it felt like somebody took a vacuum cleaner, stuck it to my belly button, and sucked all the energy out. I was hurting. That started to go away within the first couple of days. My first day, I understood the uptake in energy. I didn't have the food cravings that I had. I went like 18, 19 hours without eating, without even thinking about it. Not that I was trying, I just wasn't cued for the hunger. Within 3 days, a business partner, I was on a Zoom call with her, and she stopped the meeting because she could see the difference in my mental clarity, my mood, and she just knew something was different. Within 6 days, my blood pressure was down. I did not lose weight for about 6 weeks. However, during that time, my skin tags were fading, my skin discoloration was going away, the inflammation was going away. I used to wake up every morning with leg cramps that had me swearing like a sailor. I literally would buy pickle juice because I couldn't eat pickles fast enough, as quick as I was drinking pickle juice, because every morning I had those Charlie horse leg cramps that like had my toes curled back against themselves, or my knee drawn up to my chest and me screaming in pain. Um, it was about 2 months in, and I realized I wasn't having those leg cramps anymore, that I was like, wait a minute. And the pain that kept me awake all night, I wasn't having that within the first 2 months. I started losing weight about the sixth week. And by 5 months in, I was down 55 pounds. Now, then I had my gallbladder removed, and through a number of things that happened with that, it caused me to stop losing weight. So we're working through that now. Whole different story, right? So I'm still trying to maintain my insulin sensitivity to keep everything working as much as I can while I'm working on while I'm working on this whole other issue of liver and no gallbladder. But it can start working like, all right, so living life. Don't know whether you're a man or woman. So, like PCOS, let's talk about PCOS. Some girls who've had PCOS have written in and said that after years of having non-normal periods, within 30 days, they had their first 4-week or normal period, because there's a specific cycle your body goes through that can't happen when you're insulin resistant. When some of them have said within 3 months, they were able to conceive and have the children that they thought they were never going to be able to have. So those type of changes can happen. I've had guys who had low testosterone, who within 3 months, their testosterone numbers were from like danger zone to you're in normal range, and their erectile dysfunction was gone, and they were having normal function and normal desire again, and leaning out, more muscle mass. By the way, when you're insulin resistant, it's really hard to put muscle on. So Bruce, it's a protocol that I use based on real food products to help reverse insulin resistance and help people become more insulin sensitive by addressing the root cause of the fact that our food is imperfect. So let's not, I mean, there's a lot of people, and I've said this too, it gives you food freedom, and within reasonability, it gives you food freedom. I'm not going to say do the protocol and eat ice cream every day. No. I'm not going to say do the protocol and never get up and move your body. In fact, I have 6 simple principles, you guys, that I talk about. So with or without the protocol, these are the 6 principles that I would say that you should follow to get your insulin resistance under control from top to bottom, okay? So you need to get fiber in first before you eat, every time you eat. And I'm going to show you, it's hard for me to get that fiber in. That's why I supplement, to make sure that I do. Then you want to prioritize protein. Most of us are not getting in enough protein. So in this ebook that I have that's on my, if you go to my profile, there's a free ebook there. There's a list of proteins that I'll send to you that you're so welcome, Abby. Just go to my profile and there's a way to get a hold of me. Sorry, my voice just changed. There's a WhatsApp link, all of the information if you want to continue the conversation. More than happy to do that. So fiber first, prioritize protein. And my son, when I said this, because my son was used to me being a power lifter, and he was like, Mom, not everybody needs that much protein. I'm like, I'm not talking about 120, 150 grams of protein. I'm talking about most people that I've been working with get in maybe 30 grams of protein if they're lucky, and that's just not enough. So you need to get in maybe 30 grams of protein per meal, and depending on your size and your activity level, that can go up or down. So fiber first, prioritize protein, get in healthy fats, and don't fear them. I'm not talking canola oil, vegetable oil, seed oils. I give you a list of the oils that I recommend in that ebook. And it's things like avocado oil, coconut oil, extra virgin olive oil, butter, ghee, and animal fats. Okay. Then you're going to limit your carbs. So you can go keto if you want to get like really pump up your results. If you want to lose weight, if you want to do that, go keto, great. The system still helps with that. It helps with a number of people like myself who are doing keto, and it just helped. But limit your carbs. Okay. So if you're going to have some things, croissants, fresh baked bread, whatever it is, rolls, whatever, do it, but just limit it. Okay. Don't do it all the time. Then you want to do some time-based eating or intermittent fasting. I usually do 16 hours of fasting and eat in an 8-hour window, and stop all the snacking. Every time you snack, you're pumping up your insulin. Then you want to move your body. So people come on and they think that I'm not an advocate for all of that. I am. I'm totally an advocate for exercise. I was a world champion athlete. I still believe in moving your body. I haven't been moving mine enough, but yes, those are the 6 principles. Go get the ebook. It explains all of them. Moving your body does not have to mean crazy exercise. Right now I'm doing more qigong, shiatsu, walks in nature. I get my heart rate up, but not with the extra heavy weights, although I want to go back and start lifting weights. Because as an aging woman, by the way, weight-bearing exercise staves off osteoporosis. There's been a lot of science about that. I did a study or a paper in college about that, probably because I was doing powerlifting, but weight bearing exercise, and it doesn't have to be powerlifting. Add a little extra weight to your workout regimen. It's going to help you stave off osteoporosis. Numbers have shown it. So those are the things that I recommend. Now, of course, I do recommend intermittent fasting, because we want to get the insulin levels down. This afternoon, when I come live at 3, I'll go over the schedule of what happens in your body and how the hormones shift through your body. But it takes about 8 hours for you to get your insulin levels down after you've eaten. And if you're somebody like me who had high insulin levels for a long time, in the beginning, it could take 12 or 14 hours for that insulin level to come down. And in that time, you're already eating again. I am always talking about fruit juices, but it just reminds me right now. I was watching, man, kids shows. I know these parents are trying to do good and they think they're giving good information, but it blows my freaking mind. I was watching one kids show and they were talking about cereal and how it had iron in it and it had all this, these components in it. But yeah, it's turning into sugar in your kid's system way too quickly. Stop starting your day with cereal and grains. It's not healthy. They have turned upside down the old food pyramid for a reason. They used to say fruits, vegetables, grains at the bottom of it, and that's not correct. No sound, Lori? Huh. Not sure why. So maybe it's time for me to head out then. Oh, thank you. Yeah, I'm done painting. I put everything up. Sally, I do paintings just because it's like the joy, and I'm learning this new technique. So, this is some of them. I did a series for Halloween that's hanging up behind my couch. This is some. They're all drying and curing, but those are ones that I just worked on for um, Thanksgiving after Halloween is done. And yeah, on TikTok, no sound. So I'm going to go. I will see you guys this afternoon at 3 p.m. Okay. And yeah, so I told my kids I'm going to do like a red, pink, and purple series for Christmas and into Valentine's Day. I have this little vignette behind my couch. I'll do a video of those later. But yeah, painting is it's fun because I'm learning so much and it helps me relax. And I love this whole new poured painting that I'm learning. It's just amazing to me. Hold on, Sally, because you're on here listening and I'm not on TikTok anymore. Where is it? This painting, this painting, this one is actually I took after I was all done painting at the end of the day. There's all of these drippings that are left on the table, right? And I hate to waste stuff. I'm always trying to find ways to use things up. So I put a base coat on this painting and it looks like it got some stuff in it, but it's good because it's just me making me happy. But I scooped up the paints off the table and laid them out on this and then manipulated it just to see what would come out. And it's always just amazing. I find myself waking up in the night and running out to see what the paintings look like because with poured paintings they can change as the paints settle. And so yeah, but this one back here, this one is one of my favorite ones. This is another one that was just saving paints off the table and seeing what came out of it. But I like them. They make me happy when I look at them, but I have way too many for my house now. So when I figure out what ones I'm going to use for my vignette out there, I will try and off some with my kids or somebody, and so I can go get some more canvases and paint again. But it makes a mess out of my house. I'm going to do a whole video on that because it's kind of funny. But thank you. If you like art, you should try it. Yeah. It is. I'm surprised because like I started out doing oil painting, so very structured, very like it takes a long time for the paints to cure, and um blending was so possible. Acrylic paints are very different, and I started playing with a little bit of what I now know is poured mediums, 10, 12 years ago, where I would do a brushed on blended background and do some abstract work with some very liquidy paint on top, um, inspired by Osnat Zadok, and I think she I don't want to say because I don't want to give her the wrong um, ethnicity and then have it be the wrong one and have somebody upset. But anyway, I can type her name in. But so I did some work with that, and then I had to put painting away for a number of years, and I found poured painting. And at first, I just did it with water. The first go around, I did with house paints, and those cracked because there's a lot of like the Painted Dreamer. If you look her up, she does some beautiful bloom work. But she uses house paints as what she calls her pillow, that background. And it does really take the right paint. So listen to them, not just any house paint works. I had several paintings that came out beautifully, but then they cracked because the paint's dried wonky. And the other thing is, there's different consistencies for different techniques, which I'm learning because I was trying to do one of these back here. One of these was that kind of beigey one. The smaller one was supposed to be a bloom, and the paints were too liquidy. So I haven't gotten that down yet, but it's a lot of fun to learn. And I've restocked a bunch of my painting supplies now. I had to leave most of them in Washington when I moved out here to the East Coast, so it's been fun. I went from one little box of paints to now I have 3 or 4 boxes of paints and tubes and pre-mixed stuff and palette knives and everything again. So yeah, and I told my kids, I'm like, it's not like I go out and drink or do all of those things or waste money on those things. So if I spend a couple $100 every few months on buying paint and creating art, then that's pretty amazing to me. I'm having fun with it. So I know I have a dear, dear friend up in Idaho where I grew up, and she loves to do art too. And I keep thinking, man, I would really love to just go up and just hang out with her for a few days and just paint. Um, I used to have a friend in Washington that I would go to her house and paint, and I painted angels with wings that were mimicked off of bird wings. And but anyway, yeah, thank you. I let me know. I'd love to see what you come up with your poured painting, but just dive in and do it. Cause I mean, I just buy right now. I'm starting to buy more gallery wrapped canvases now as I'm getting more confidence with it. But I just buy the little like 12.99 6 pack of the 12 by 12 or 14 by 14 paintings so I can practice. Um, and just dive in, Sally, and do it. It's so fun, and it's really, really. The first few were frustrating because the pillow paint ate up my other paints, and it's amazing how the paints mix and layer in. It doesn't always come out the way you would think, but it's interesting to see how it does come out. So give it a try. Okay, I'm going to go get some other stuff done and get some videos ready. Get ready for 3 o'clock. I thank you and I appreciate you. It's good to see you in here today. We'll talk to you all later. Have a good day, guys.